Good morning, everybody. Back here talking about Tommy Robinson again. Though not for as long as yesterday. A short reel, just punchy update. Will Chamberlain, who is a US lawyer and commentator, he kind of hit the nail on the head yesterday with his podcast, Periscope, because he accurately pulled out from the footage that Tommy had shot outside the court that Tommy was aware of reporting restrictions. I've kind of known this all along. It was in the original broadcast which I watched, and I heard Tommy referring to the reporting restrictions. Now, knowing Tommy as, I don't think he didn't knowingly break the reporting restrictions. Now, I've tried, but I can't find a written copy of the specific reporting restrictions for that court in Leeds. And this is, perhaps it's because I'm not very talented at searching Google, perhaps they're not on the internet, perhaps they're posted publicly on the door of the court, which I believe they are, but I'm not there. Whatever it is, it's that admission during the live stream, and he admitted it in a number of places because he said, I'm going to go into this court, I'm going to hopefully hear the verdict read out, but I can't tell you until part 3 of this trial concludes. So just talking about the case may well have blown open those reporting restrictions. Tommy was unaware of that. He's not a lawyer, and much to my annoyance, he probably didn't consult a lawyer before going to the court on Friday morning. The point also, and the bit that he also will have fallen foul of, is those reporting restrictions will apply to republication of facts and details such as the charges, the names and the pictures of the accused that are already in the public domain. So merely standing there on a Facebook Live talking to a considerable number of people and reading from a BBC article or a Leeds Live article that has been published in the past is enough to breach those reporting restrictions. So I've got 2 further comments, short comments. One is he was already in trouble because of the Canterbury case. The Canterbury case resulted in him getting a 3-month sentence in prison. Forget that it was suspended. It was a custodial 3-month sentence. And it was also given to him after he was pulled from his bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, which, again, is highly unusual way to treat journalists. Now, people might think that he isn't a journalist, but in what he was doing, he was acting as a journalist. And that was a 3-month sentence. What's happened now is that he's got a 10-month sentence for this repeat offence added to the 3-month he already had. That's 13 months. I just want to... People who are not in the UK might not know about this, but in 1993, a black teenager was attacked called Stephen Lawrence, and it was an enormous case, and the search for whoever did it and how to convict them took years, actually, because it was a whole gang and they couldn't figure out actually who killed the kid, and they knew a lot of people were there. Anyway, it was a very long, complicated route to getting the case to court. But I'm just looking over at coverage of the court case, and if you search for Stephen Lawrence Spectator, which is one of Britain's oldest magazines, Stephen Lawrence Spectator Contempt of Court. That magazine, the editor, or Rod Liddell, actually, was ordered to pay £5,265 in fines because he broke reporting restrictions in that case. Now, they went through court. It was agreed that Rod Liddell himself didn't knowingly break the reporting restrictions. That's different to Tommy. But The Spectator was a massive magazine with an entire legal department, and his article went through that entire editing and legal process, and nobody there thought not to publish it. And the total punishment was about £5,000 and £2,000 compensation to the family of Stephen Lawrence. I don't believe it resulted in a mistrial either, but it was treated as a very serious matter. This is in 2011, not that long ago. So I don't have access to a legal database to look for precedents and for sentencing, but maybe someone will and find out what are the normal sentences for a breach of specific court rules. Custodial sentences are normal? I don't know. Certainly that 3-month sentence in Canterbury for didn't seem, but you know, perhaps if Tommy had served it, he'd have thought twice. The second part is, what are you doing in Britain? It's what I said yesterday. I'm going to repeat it, which was that these reporting restrictions are designed to stop juries being corrupted. This was a 1-part, 2-part, 3-part trial. 1 and 2 finishing, 1 finished, 2 finishing, 3 to come. So there's still jurors that they're going to need from the area to come in and hear part 3. And they don't want them hearing details from parts 1 and 2. It seems very convenient that that means that the press can't talk about these cases, because it's obvious that the main thrust of the press don't want to talk about these cases to a great degree. They covered them up for 40 years. I mean, local papers knew this stuff was going on, but it just never made headlines, and especially not nationally until the dam broke a few years back. So definitely the sentence seems absolutely astonishingly severe. And, that's been Tommy's history ever since he started up with activism that spoke about Islam. His conviction for mortgage fraud was a total and utter BS conviction. He probably could have fought that and won that mortgage fraud case. Nobody's ever really been sent to prison, and not to high security prisons for over a year, for co-signing a mortgage form that had a wrong detail on it that resulted in nobody losing any money ever. It's just unheard of. The only reason, and it's explained in his book, the only reason Tommy pled guilty to that charge and did not fight it is because they threatened his wife. Now all they threatened to do was charge his wife and put her in court. In order for that to be a real threat, which it was a real threat, that's because what they would have done is they would have then brought her to court past hordes of cameras. So they threatened. The reason Tommy went to prison for that long sentence that essentially got him out of the EDL and destroyed the EDL, so they thought would shut him up forever, was to avoid his wife being photographed by the press on her way into a court. And what is Tommy in prison now for? Photographing people on their way into a court. Yep, he did something wrong. Yep, I guess he ran a mild risk of prejudicing a very big trial. But again, it took them an hour and a quarter to stop him. And it was pretty early on that they would have known what he was doing, and they could have stopped him any time. So I think they know. The chances of this actually prejudicing a trial, the chances of a defence team mounting a reasonable defence or appeal based on Tommy's live stream are negligible. Same as the Stephen Lawrence trial wasn't derailed by Rod Liddell publishing in Britain's oldest and most prestigious magazine. And that was just a £5,000 slap on the wrist because, Rod Liddell is one of them. Did he know he was breaking the law? He knew that there were reporting restrictions. I think he misinterpreted what that means. I don't think he knowingly did that outside the court expecting to be arrested. I've known Tommy to do things that got him arrested. He flew to America to attend a 9/11 commemoration thing on somebody else's passport. He absolutely knew he was going to get arrested. Again, he did that and he got a massive jail sentence for that. There are people flying off to join ISIS, women, ISIS brides who use fake ID to get out of the country. They don't get anything like the punishment that Tommy got for going to a 9/11 memorial in America. In fact, it's my understanding that the Americans didn't even want to prosecute because they were so embarrassed that they let the guy in on somebody else's passport. But 2 or 3 weeks after he returned from America, knock on the door, middle of the night, police with guns, I think that time, because that's a pattern here. There's an intimidation aspect to this. So all I can hope is that he's safe. I'm told that the prison he's in is a better one than most, and he's got a lot of support. I would suspect he has massive support inside from everybody except the Muslim gangs. That's just the nature of who he is and what he's become. What does it mean going forward for Britain? Well, it's a bit dark, actually, because you don't really have any political way of expressing resistance to Islamization. You've got Anne-Marie Waters, you've got Gerald Batten at UKIP. Those are sort of legal avenues for you, but Anne-Marie Waters is treated like a complete pariah. Gerald Batten is leading UKIP, and one doesn't know whether he can turn UKIP from the Brexit party into the anti-Islamization party. And Tommy was doing something different, something that you needed done in Britain because you needed someone to tell you what was going on and agitate for you. I fully expect that when Tommy's eventually released, it will be on a license that shuts him up, that really, really, really shuts him down. Which again, the previous time he came out of prison, he was on a license that politically restricted his speech. But that was for like a mortgage fraud case. I mean, what the hell did those two things have to do with one another? Mortgage fraud, political speech? How? This time, they're going to have, a huge justification for shutting him up because they're going to put conditions on him that I don't think anybody's ever imagined. There's not much, me saying it doesn't make it happen. But I'm worried about that. So Britain, as I said in the long one yesterday, dimitude is your future unless you fix your leadership. Dimitude is submission to Islam. They already dictate much of what goes on because the authorities are terrified of a backlash. They're terrified of this. So they'll prosecute as few of these rape gangs as they have to sort of keep you thinking that something's being done. But hundreds of thousands of perpetrators will never, ever be looked at by the police. It's obvious that the numbers are that way because you've got so many child victims who have grown up, and it's been going on 40 years, and the mathematics is always that there are many, many, many more clients than prostitutes or groomed victim girls in this case. And so that's the future of Britain. And I don't really have an optimistic message unless you find some way to resist that future. Without Tommy leading you for at least a year or so, but I think it could well be a longer time that he's quiet. So look to read Easy Meat, read Tommy's book, agitate yourselves. Start asking your local politicians what they are doing. What do they know about what's going on in your towns and cities across the UK? That's the only choice you've got. Anyway. I'm going to carry on in Israel. I've got actually this morning, Haaretz, I've got it on my other screen. Haaretz wrote a typical, the opinion editor of Haaretz wrote the typical thing, why Israeli fanboys back a UK far-right anti-Muslim campaigner. this article contains a video. Well, it contains a video of me. This is in Haaretz, which is Israel's premier far-left newspaper. It's the New York Times of Israel. It gets almost no readership in the country. It's diminishing, but it's the one that the entire world media reads for their views on Israel. I find it to be largely anti-Israel, actually. I don't like their stance on Israeli politics at all, and on what happens when Israel defends herself. She's written this, the typical uninformed, misinformed article, far right, neo-Nazi, la la la. So anyway, she's given me 850 words to respond, so I'm going to have a bash at that this morning. You'll see it next week, probably, if it's not too harsh for them to publish. Okay, good morning all. Keep Tommy in your prayers. He needs the help. I think what he was doing was an act of justifiable civil disobedience. Could have been done in a smarter way, but sometimes the best ways to do a bit of civil disobedience are in your face like that, and that's what he did. And he's bringing attention to something that right now America is talking about it, which is quite fun. America needs to talk about it. The world needs to talk about it. It's happening everywhere, I'm sure, in Europe especially, and they're not talking about it. So good luck, Tommy. You have my very, very best wishes to you. And bye all. See you next time.